Hello everyone, welcome to another speedrun video on our way to 2500. We're going to call it slug run, I think, in future. We're slowly getting there, and of course the idea of these videos is I'm a Grandmaster and I'm going to teach you secrets and tips how to get to the 2500 strength. And I don't overcomplicate things. I try to keep things very simple, no long tactics, and just little bits of advice from my decades of playing chess at top level that I want to share with you. And we've got the white pieces now. My opponent has struck out with c5, which is a bit of a big, an odd opening, but it's not so bad. This structure should generally favour white because it's very nice having this pawn protected in the middle. But my opponent's opening is kind of like a Benoni. It's old Benoni, some players call it. And his idea, and we've got to know what our opponent's plans are whenever we go into an opening, as much as our own plans, so we can fight against them and know the benefits of them and what we need to watch out for and what we need to encourage. And here, well, start of the game, we're developing, we're getting our pieces into the game, and at the same time, we've got to just think where these pieces are best placed. And the way I quite like playing this is when there's this square here, I quite enjoy transferring at the right time my knight around to that square. But a move I often use here, because I want to get his bishop out of castle, is this disruptive check. And this poses a little problem for my opponent, because he's got to block this check. Now, if he blocks with a knight, he could actually find that gets in the way of his pieces. It gets in the way of the bishop. If he blocks with the bishop, he could find, and I'm going to play a4. The one idea you want to watch out for in these structures is another idea is b5. So this clamps down on the b5 idea. And this move also potentially gets in the way of the knight. Now, I don't want to exchange that one. Don't make exchanges when you have more space. I have more space because I'm into his half of the board. So I want to keep pieces on. And you can see that I'm just trying to take away squares from my opponent's pieces. And this is quite a high level opening plan, which I've used before. Now, even this might have been a slight error. The best way for black to play that position was to swap off that bishop somehow. And rather than castling, which is kind of an automatic move, I'm thinking my opponent might still play this. So I'm now going to do this maneuver of putting my knight on this very nice square, c4, and at the same time stopping him from getting rid of the bishop. Therefore, he's not able to move his knight. His bishop has no squares it can now come out to. Why is the knight so good on this square? Two reasons. b6 is a hole, and I'm going to try to get my knight into that hole. And number two, one of my opponent's main breaks is e6 to try and liberate his pieces. When he plays e6, what pawn becomes weak? d6. How do we attack d6? With a knight on c4. So it's these sort of middle game maneuvers that when you play an opening, you need to understand. Not just memorizing the moves, knowing where your pieces want to go. That's how you become a much higher level player. And around the 2300 level, which we're at now, both of us, you've got to know about these maneuvers, and you've got to understand them. So the only way you're going to get better. So my opponent continues with this one. Now, I don't know if knight c4 or castles is best. I'm just going to castle because I'm going to have to play that move at some point. Maybe knight c4 was a little bit more to the point. My opponent can now at least get his bishop to f5, but it's not doing much to us on that square. Worst case scenario, my knight can come here. Now, the only thing I am thinking, if I go here, he might be able to make some exchanges with a knight to this square. I don't think I'm too worried about that. So it's more important to try and stop this knight coming out, and he can't move that knight out now because I take the pawn on d6. Now, has he created any threats there? Not really, because my knight's defending that. So I can now develop my last piece and create a threat there. Now, does he have knight here against that? And if I take, rook takes, is that a potential idea? Maybe. So let's have a look. Bishop here, It's clear he wants to put his knight here, I think. So bishop here, knight here. And we have to do a little bit of calculation. Here, rook takes, attacking my bishop. And if my bishop takes here, he takes here. This is a tactic. If my knight takes here, he takes here. So I might instead come to this square. And my bishop on g3, if it gets chased there, is going to be defended. And it won't get hit by rook e4. And the other idea is if my queen can just slide up one square, which connects my rooks, but he's going for this idea of kicking my bishop. And I want my bishop attacking that pawn, but in that last variation, and we have to do some calculation in chess, I didn't want the rook attacking it. So now, when I go here, you can see, again, I want to stop this knight coming out. He's got to defend this pawn. And we're making it a little bit uncomfortable for him to do that. He might have to underdevelop and, you know, put his bishop back. And that's his best piece. He doesn't do that, but doing it this way means that his knight still can't come here. So he still can't develop these two. So what I'm going to try to do now is exchange off his only active piece, which is his bishop, and keep him in the cage with these guys. And this also helps me because I connect my rooks. Okay, so he's using his pieces the best he can. And I don't think there's any tactics here I can do. Now I could go here, but looks like he's going to maybe get this in. But I'll take the open file, and I might even better take with the queen here. Because if I take with the queen, again, I'm trying to stop this developing move. So I'm constantly thinking about what my opponent's aiming to play. b5's under control, pawn takes, he can't recapture. If his knight goes here, I grab this pawn, and he might better get some compensation there, but probably not enough. If he can't move this, he can't move this, and all of these pieces are dead. The bishop is hardly a worry. I'm controlling that square, and on the next move, I can even go knight here and put more pressure on d6. So I think if I was black here, I'd just play knight here. And then I have the choice of grabbing a pawn, maybe even rook e7. So he hasn't done that. He's played a very quiet move, but I think I have a lot of good moves, but knight here, is this idea knight here? We've got to always try to work out opponent's ideas. Then queen takes here and some b5 at the right time. I don't believe it for him, but I mean, I don't need to rush this. I could go this move is very crafty. And if knight here, then I grab that. Okay, I'm going to play this because I'm just trying to suffocate him. And I create a positional threat. The positional threat's knight here when his rook has to go to a7, and that will kill his rook forever. I've had the kind of idea where I go knight here, and then at some point the knight comes here, and I move the other knight here. And then knight takes knight, knight takes knight, and his rook's stuck here for the rest of the game. And I'm playing, therefore, basically a rook up. So this is a positional idea, because I think he has to play this. I forced him to play this. And now I'm going to take on d6. Now I'm going to grab this pawn. Like I mentioned, he might be able to get some compensation here, but I don't think it's enough, because my knight is very strong. So he's gone in with the rook. Now there's a couple of options, but the most tempting is surely to move my rook in, because his king has come to a worse square, and it's made f7 weak as well. Previously his king was better there, it was defending f7, but now this is a horrendous position, and I haven't just won a pawn, but I've kept his pieces caged, which is more important. So he has to move back. Now there are a couple of good ideas. Knight coming in here is one. Got to watch out for something like this. I can come here and okay, let's take this one. This one looks right for the capturing. I can go d6, but then would my pawn become a potential target? Another idea is to play here, which I'm going to do, because now I introduce the idea of swapping rooks. And if he attacks my rook, it's defended, and I bring in the last piece. I don't want to commit to d6 yet, because his rook maybe gets a little bit better there because it attacks my pawn. At the moment, my pawn is very safe. It's not attacked by anything. He can't move the knight. He's in a pin as well. So I'm not just trying to win directly. Throughout this game, it's a suffocation idea. I'm trying to suffocate his pieces. Now I'm going to make exchanges. This does allow his knight to come here, but I can't really do anything about that. Is it therefore time to play d6 now? And then the rook comes here, and then there might well be some tactic then. Okay, I think d6 now. Does it make sense? d6, rook here. I don't need to do tactics. Knight here. And I'm going to try to win this without doing any deep tactics. My time's going a little bit low. This is, I found from this time thing, the only time I really get in trouble. So he's just moved backwards. Okay, I have to eliminate. I'm a pawn up. I'm very safe. Does he want this move, next move? But then my knight comes in. So I'm just going to play this. My king gets a chance to come in. And after knight here, I wanted to come here, but maybe I come behind the pawn. So I've got to now nurture this extra pawn advantage, and I probably could have done this better, but it is a safe extra pawn, and it's a good pawn. So how am I going to do this? I'm going to do it very slowly. I'm going to try to prove my king. I'm going to try to use my pawns. He's going to try to blockade with his knight, but that shouldn't help too much because this is a great piece of mine, but when I swap it off, I do have another knight. The only thing I have to watch out for slightly is this pawn. Okay, but let's make the exchange. So this pawn slightly in trouble, but I'm going to go knight here because I'm very confident. Again, I know endings well. You've got to know your endings. That this ending should be winning with correct play. Maybe I didn't need to do this because he can now go b5 and get an active rook. Not such a clear idea. Now I'm going to go here. If he doesn't move this now, I probably should play b3 against that. I've got rook b3, and I'm going to stop his one bit of counterplay forever. So he's played very well. He's played that move. And this is not as easy as I thought, funnily enough. Now, if I take en passant, his rook becomes quite strong. b3, a5, a4 should still be winning. Oh, I've got to take it first. But it's I've got to maybe create a way in on the king side. So he's defended pretty well. So this is the kind of thing you can try to do. But I'm always going to have this passed pawn. So the way I'm going to win this, or try to win it, I've got to try to find a way in over here, I think. Because nothing's going to happen on this area of the board. There's no way in. So how am I going to do that? Well, at the moment, king f4 is one idea to improve my king. If he tries to stop that, well, here I'm not worried about putting the rook on c3. So king f4, my king is coming in. Rook coming this way is a potential threat. Rook b4, here a4. He plays a4 straight away, so I take it. And now his rook has become active, so it's still not clear, but I have this move is key. And again, it's like I said, I have to come in this way to win this ending. Have to find a way for my king to get in. His rook has become active, but this is most likely going to force, his this kind of idea where my pawns are very good, but I still got to win this. Now, his pawns are very bad. What's next? Well, if I put my rook on e4, my rook becomes better. One of the most important things in a rook ending is have an active rook. At the moment, my rook is just passive. So putting the rook on e4 is a big improvement, and this check is something that's lurking as well. So I'm moving my rook to a more active square. If he swaps rooks, it's an easy win. And here, if we check, that might be okay. If we come here, though, we get out of the way of potentially rook move. And I think, do I play this move? Not sure. He's going to get behind my pawns. Still not. He's come back. Okay, interesting. So now, can my king look after these guys while my rook clears up on the H file? And this is obviously a combination of using the king and the rook. So this is what I'm aiming to do. So here takes. Now if I come here, It's going to come over here. So I'm going to go this way because my king might need to come to d3 to defend c4. I'm going to try and use everything now to come forward as much as I can. And I'm going to try to keep his... So I've changed that my rook's become more active, his rook's become more passive. But where's the breakthrough? f5 seems to be a very useful move to play. He's come all the way over here. f5 has got to be okay. If he comes here, I'll grab this pawn. And if he goes passive, I now need to activate my rook more. So now I'm looking at coming around the side. And let's do it this way, because this will force his king to the back rank, even if I have to give up a pawn, which he's playing well, don't get me wrong. I'm hoping my pawns are going to be too strong. The threat is here, checkmate. His king is now the main issue. So it's been a long technical ending, this. Here, threatening checkmate again. And at this point, my pawns are just too strong. He needs really to be able to check me from behind, which he can't do in this situation. And he can, well, I think he can probably resign this one now, as in I've got everything. And I've got this check on the back rank as well, so it's pretty gone. So an interesting ending, this one. Maybe I could have won it a little bit better, but I think it was always winning. And the last thing I need to do is just hide my king, and I'm going to hide it actually behind my opponent's pawn, and that's the end of that. And it's funny how they love fighting on, don't they, in this time limit until the bitter end. And well, I'm going to just make sure he doesn't have king f7, and they love playing on till checkmate, and that would be stalemate. Oh my god, did I nearly do that? So let's just put the ball in the back of the net, and it's going to be checkmate in a couple of moves. That's why they play on, because they wait for the grandmasters to stalemate them. And it's checkmate next move, so my opponent resigns. Okay, quite a long game, that one. Quite a tough game. But again, I think it was quite thematic. I hope so. I hope you learned some things. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Yeah, we didn't do anything particularly special there. We did some minor calculations. We knew some basic plans in the middle game from experience. We knew what to watch out for. Don't let him exchange pieces. We knew to try to get in. I mean, a lot of ways I win these games is actually, as you'll probably agree, it's not from what I'm doing, it's what I'm stopping my opponent from doing. And the main thing in this one was I was stopping my opponent from developing after this mistake he played. Because as long as we stop our opponent from doing the things he wants to do, you're more than halfway to victory. And we do that slowly, and we slowly improve. And people think I'm a very aggressive attacking player, which I can be, but when I'm playing lower rated players, the best way to win is by simply stopping their plans. And that's something you should all try to do. So again, like, subscribe, and we'll try to come up with some more videos soon.